Welcome to the Rebel Rise podcast, a place where values-driven founders on a mission for more come to connect, learn, and grow. Here, we celebrate the relentless spirit of leaders building businesses that create real good for their clients, communities, and the world. No subject is off limits, and every episode is designed to bring you clear strategy, steady leadership, and people-first operations you can actually sustain. Get ready to grow ethically, lead well, and build something that works without burning you out. Your impact journey begins right here. Let's go. Cailee Rae is an intimacy and relationship coach, helping individuals and couples reconnect when emotional connection, desire, and intimacy have quietly gone missing. With over a decade in the wellness space, she specializes in helping high-achieving people move from feeling like roommates back to feeling like partners by rebuilding emotional intimacy, communication, trust, and sexual confidence. Combining relationship coaching with a background in bodywork, Reiki, and nervous system-based healing, Cailee helps clients address the deeper patterns beneath dead bedrooms, emotional disconnection, and relationship burnout. Her work is rooted in one simple belief: that physical intimacy is built on emotional intimacy, and the strongest relationships are created when people feel safe enough to be fully seen. All right, Cailee, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to have you here. I'm so excited to dive into your whole story today.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here. And I just realized I was like, I should always tell people I'm the girl that drinks my water out of a wine glass. So this is just water in here.
I love it. It's so fancy. And listen, if it was wine, it would also be fine. So
fair. It usually is also wine. Yes.
I love it. You'll be encouraging me to drink my water, although it's a little low, but I'm the mason jar girly. So
yep, I have those too. It just depends on the vibe, depends on the day.
Gotta recycle.
Where I'm at my cycle. Yep.
Exactly. So I am so excited to have you on here because I know you do a couple of things. And one of the things that you do is specifically in terms of relationship focus. I have not had anybody on the podcast who does that. So I'm excited to dive into that and we will get there. But I always start by having my guests just explain to our audience a little bit about your background and how you arrived to the business that you have today.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. I'm so excited. I feel like I've been telling this story more and more as I do more of these interviews, and it's just such a good reminder. It's like this little trip down memory lane. And side note, I've been experiencing things in my body that are familiar from earlier in my life, right? Driving back last Friday from dropping my son off with my ex-husband or his stepdad. And I was like, man, as a kid, my mom used to drive us halfway. This feels so familiar. And so I'm starting to recognize these narratives that I have. And I was making eggs this morning. And I was like, I used to have a roommate that left her pan on the stove every day. She would make an egg and toast. And so just whatever is going on in the world energetically, I'm noticing all these things and it's so wild. And I'm just happy to be here. I've recognized that my journey, even though I didn't know at the beginning, has literally been a journey of regulating my nervous system this whole time. And I'll go home and I'll visit my family. I've just got my mom and my brother left. And my brother looked at me one day and he's like, how are you so healthy? How do you not have any of the diabetes or the blood pressure or the back problems or the knee pain? And I was like, I think it's because of what I do. He's like, it must be the yoga. And I was like, sure. So to back that train way up, I went to yoga school or massage school in 2014, 2015. I was sharing this story earlier that I previously was a bill collector. I think my job title was actually like loan officer, but essentially when you have to collect on these loans, you become a bill collector where you're yelled at and swore at and it's your problem they can't pay their bill. And I had
Mm.
had a gift certificate to go in for like a spa treatment. And I remember laying on the massage table, cocooned in the little like tinfoil thing that they put you in, right? When you get like the body scrub and stuff. And she steps out of the room and lets me know I get to just lay there for like 15 minutes and she'll come back and check on me. And I'm laying there going, this is someone's job? Like, this is so peaceful. This is completely opposite of what I do. And so in that moment, I decided I wanted to look at massage school. I had previously gone to UWL here in La Crosse for physical therapy, decided through my clinicals that was not for me. And so somehow for full circle, got back to massage. And I did that for a couple of years before I went on my own, started taking yoga, recognized yogis have this like presence that is just so fucking cool. And I didn't know then, right? But I was like, whatever she's having, like, I want that. How do I get that? And so now when people compliment my like aura or my energy or my vibe, I'm like, thanks, dude. I've been working really hard on having good energy. Like, I
I
appreciate
love
that
it.
you appreciate it. So found yoga, I was doing it at first for the workout. I didn't recognize there was more to yoga. And then I found my yoga studio that I go to regularly that was more about the work in, the spirituality. I proceeded to go to yoga teacher training there. They then had Reiki training. Then I went to school online for Ayurveda as like a sister science to yoga because it all just really like calls to me. And then COVID happened, and I finally had the courage to end my marriage. And I always say, like, my son still spends a weekend a month with my ex husband. Like, we are really good. We both had our own stuff that contributed to, like, no fights, no sex, just like no marriage, right? But I decided at that time, like, do you know who Dr. Nicole De La Pera is?
I don't.
And I don't think I have her book because I think I borrowed it to somebody. I think it's called How to Do the Work. And she talks about in this book, if you cannot remember a lot of your childhood, usually it's because you've had some trauma. And I was like,
Mm.
oh shit. And so I just kind of all culminated at that time. And I hung out with a friend who suggested a podcast. The guest on the podcast were the founders of the program that I took for sex and relationship coaching. And so a couple of years later, I graduated from that program and was like, this is the work that I meant to do. I was at an Ayurveda retreat reading The Body Keeps the Score. And I was like, this is why massage is like less fulfilling to me these days. And it's not rewarding. I still love it. I just feel like I know now that whatever's going on in your neck or your low back is so much deeper than just those muscles. It's trauma, it's stress, it's your unhad conversations, it's all those things. And so it's like, I can take your money month after month for a massage. Like, I will do that. I just don't feel good about it. I want to know why your neck is sore every month, right? Like, what conversations aren't you having? And so it's been slow going because you have to meet people where they're at and they're not always ready to go deeper. But I just appreciate the variety I have in my life. As a Manny Gen now, I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense.
Yeah. Yep. I'm a Manny Gen too. And that's why I'm always all over the place and I need to have all of these different projects. So what is your favorite part about what you do? Because you do a couple of different modalities within your business and the offerings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because trauma doesn't have just one offering within it, right? So what is the favorite thing that you offer in there?
Yeah, I mean, coaching is my favorite. I think like the progress you see in a 45-minute session from start to finish is like probably years of therapy, right?
Mhm.
Because it's like I'm seeing couples maybe at their worst. They're coming in and they're like, we're having this fight and we can't figure it out. And she sucks. And he said that. And it's like, okay. So communication's important. And that's what therapy like encourages a lot of. But what I get to do as a coach is tell them kind of to like sit down and shut the fuck up. Like literally, I can be like, all right, pause and take them from their head, where they're living, where they're triggered, and get them to drop into their body, into their heart. And as soon as they remember why they love their person so much, whatever they're fighting about doesn't even matter. And that happens all the time. It's like our fights are always over small stuff because it's really symbolic of something deeper underneath that we need to work through. And so it's like when I can get them to stop yelling, tune into their heart and their partner, which literally I make them sit back to back or look at each other in the eyes and hold hands or breathe together. I make people really uncomfortable in like the best way, you know? And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, that thing actually wasn't that big of a deal. What I was trying to say was this. And then the other person's like, yeah, no, I totally get that. And boom, in 45 minutes, we've just like repaired a rupture that they haven't been able to fix in months or years, you know?
Yeah. I love that. And, I think this is something that's so needed. And I know there's lots of relationship modalities and therapies, but I see so many people who want to just pretend like everything in their relationship is fine. Like they're the poster children on Instagram and everything is fine. And then the next thing you know, they're split up and you're like, wait, what? What
Mm-hmm.
happened? So
Mm-hmm.
why do you think that is? Do you like with your expertise, have you kind of pinpointed why people do that instead of seeking out help?
Yeah, I mean, it's safer, right? And I
Mhm.
think part of my work here, I call out all the taboo things, right? It started with sex and periods and money. Now I'm leaning into the title or the label of like being a witchy one. Like we are all witches and they're not bad. And so I'm here to just make these things like not so taboo. But that is the conversation that keeps coming up. And it's what I've even been kind of sharing in my content recently is like people look really good on Instagram and they look really good at church, right? Like we're all on
Mhm.
our best behavior. But what's going on at home behind closed doors is they're sitting on opposite ends of the couch, scrolling their phones separately. They're sleeping in separate beds. They're literally just like co managing the children and the tasks and like passing each other by like they're roommates because they're so disconnected in intimacy. And so it's never surprising to me when I hear someone say something about their relationship and I go, yeah, dude, like you're not alone. We all struggle with this. We all struggle with dead bedrooms. Like that is just part of a season of marriage sometimes, especially when you don't feel connected emotionally. So it's just like we live in this culture where next day Amazon delivery and DoorDash and all these things and Instacart, they're right here. So when your marriage isn't going well, the idea of divorce is like, okay,
Yeah.
instead of how do we put the work in? And I argue if you don't want to put the work in with your person, maybe they're not your right person, you know?
Yeah.
With the caveat, after years of disconnect, sometimes you're just over it. But it's like in one session, if I can get you to remember why you even got married in the first place, usually we can really make a lot of ground, like talking through things and getting back on the same page as like partners.
What is the cost of someone's mental health when they stay in a relationship like that because it's comfortable? Because I have not been in a relationship for 6 years. Happily single over here. But I remember being in relationships and feeling like yes, it's safe, it's easy, I don't want to die alone, all of those things. No one else will love me. Right? These things everybody says. But what is that actually doing to one's mental health when you're choosing to pacify in that way?
Yeah, and I definitely want to be careful because there are relationships that are extremely unhealthy, right? If there's abuse present, like do not stay, right? I am
Right.
also not recently single, but I'd say in the last couple of years. I was married once to my first husband, Joe, who's still in my son's life. And then my last partner and I, he's a great human. And also, there were a lot of things that were just, to me, really unhealthy. And it caused me to become this version of myself that nobody recognized. I mean, literally, my clients, like, I was a shell of a human because of the way we related to each other. And him and I are still having conversations, working through like conscious relationship healing and growth. But I think at the end of the day, you really have to look at your health and your values and discern if this person is going to be a partner and support you through these things like good, bad, or ugly, right? We've all got stuff. and you need a partner to walk through that stuff with you. And if you just feel like you're alone and you can't confide in them, and you're not going to put the work in to see if you can figure out communication, then they're probably not your person. And maybe you would be better off alone. But I love love. And I think the instant gratification world that we live in, it's so easy just to be like, you're not my person. Bye. I'll find someone else. And then, yeah, like even me too. I hurt my toe a few weeks ago and I ruptured an ovarian cyst. Like, I don't even know what's going on right now. And both those times I was like, man, it would be kind of nice to have someone around here to like make dinner for me so I didn't have to do that. But not relatable. So nice that I would sacrifice being in a shitty relationship, right?
Right.
So yeah, you have to decide for you where those boundaries are. But what I see a lot is, and I'm just going to call it like I see it, where I live, mostly women are coming in complaining about their husbands, right? And a lot of times the males, the husbands, aren't excited to do this work. They're not coming in for this work. We've all got an ego. Some are just bigger than others, right?
Yep.
But what I tell those women, like, if your partner's not going to show up for this work, that's okay. I'm not here to tell you to stay or to leave. I love love. I want you guys to be happily married. But if you can't figure this out, I'm here to support you. And so let's just figure out what it looks like to support you, because they're coming in saying, you know, he says this and he does this and he's not doing this and he's always this. And it's like, okay, babe, the only person we can work on here, if he's not showing up, is going to be you. And so the work is to look at, if you are living as the highest and best version of yourself as a wife, what does she look like? How is she showing up? How is she spending her day? Because a lot of times what happens is these women aren't even honoring themselves. And so they're mad at the dude for not doing the thing. And it's like, okay, but how do you take, like, you're a grown-up. What do you need? How do you need to be supported? And how are you spending your time? And so we really have to like back it way up a lot to see, like, what are your wants and needs? What are your values? What's important to you in a relationship? Is this something that's figure outable or not?
Yeah, I think that's really, really important and powerful once they open up. And so once they do, they have all this trauma in their body that's around all of those things, those self-beliefs and other experiences that they've had. How do you go about helping them to release that part, right? Because the mental is one thing, but the physical is a completely different thing.
Yeah, and it really depends on everyone's lived experience. And it seems like the women that I tend to draw in, right? We all kind of have our people, tend to be people pleasers. And so once they start to recognize that they are not honoring their own needs, right? They're taking care of the pets and taking care of the kids and making sure the husband's got his lunch and work's a big deal and sports are this. And then I'm like, what did you even do today for yourself? They get really angry, you know? And I try to remind them that resentment, that anger isn't because of your husband. It's because you haven't been taking care of yourself. You've been allowing all these other things to take priority over you. And so while your anger is valid, let's make sure it's directed at the right person. And so then let's start there. Whatever you want to do to move your anger in a healthy way, right? I used to go to CrossFit a lot. That was how I moved my rage for years, when I realized, like, yeah, my marriage was shitty and I stayed for a really long time, right? So if I have anyone to be mad at, like, it's me. And once you reframe that for a lot of my clients, they're kind of like, ooh, shit, yeah. So how are we keeping our side of the street clean? Because as soon as you bring that focus back to yourself, you step into a totally different energy.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I mean, I was just a serial monogamist for years, and just one long-term relationship to another one. And the thing that I've noticed is, now that I'm alone too, not only do I have all this space for myself to not be influenced by other people, right? Like I even live by myself, so I'm not constantly getting this input from other people. But it made me realize not only how influenced I am by other people, the projections that I would put on other people too from my own lived experiences, but I also had no semblance of who I was as a human. And so I'm also thankful every day. And I know we're talking about relationships and not like single womanhood, which is a completely different thing. But there's just been so much I've been able to expand in by, you know, being brave enough to step away from those relationships and not accept another one that is in the way that I was attracting them, if that makes sense. So this might be something else that you can speak to as well, is the patterns that we attract, right? Because it wasn't just that I was married and that I had issues with one person in particular. And I was also part of the problem. I needed to communicate better. It was a collection of the same type of person that I was collecting and always getting the same results and hoping that because it was a different person, I would get a different outcome.
Yeah. And this is where I love and hate my job at the same time, because I just have to lovingly call you guys out, right?
Yeah.
I did the same thing. After my divorce, I kept attracting these emotionally unavailable men. And I was like, what the fuck? That's not what I want. Why do they keep showing up? And then I was able to look at myself and go, oh, I am actually emotionally unavailable. I didn't think that I was, because that's not what I was seeking. But what was happening, what we do is we pull in our mirrors, right? And so it's like, I knew to talk about thoughts and feelings, but the idea of actually being vulnerable and sharing my feelings with somebody was still terrifying. And so, of course, all the people I was calling in also didn't want to do that. The physical intimacy was easy. The emotional intimacy, not so easy, you know? And I think to your point, yes, I'm a relationship coach and an intimacy coach. And so I work with couples, but I often work with a lot of individuals too, because the relationship that we have with ourselves matters. And I, for the first time in probably 20 years, have a girl roommate. And I was like, oh shit, how's this going to go? And I mean, so far it's been epic. It's new, but like, it's just fun to have someone to like share dinner and stuff like that with. But over these last couple of years being single again, really recognizing like, yeah, he always gave me shit for working too much. And I didn't even work as much then as I work now. So like, that was his definition of working too much and what he needed. And it's like, I wasn't even working 40 hours a week. So in hindsight, no, motherfucker, I'm going to work as much as I'm going to work. I'm going to honor you, right? So going forward, it's probably important that I find a partner that also has a job that they love and are passionate about, whether they work for someone else or for themselves. They would recognize like, we're both hardworking. We both have goals, passions. We're multi-passionate Manny Jens, like doing our best life. I saw a reel the other day and I was like, as a relationship coach, this is probably a really unhealthy reel. But she had said like, you know, find your person that because they want to spend quality time with you, they'll like book the vacation. That's how he gets me away from work, is he's like, hey babe, in 2 months, we're going here for 2 weeks. Like, make sure your work schedule is arranged accordingly because I love you and I want to spend time with you. And I was like, yeah, I want that kind of a relationship, you know? So it is a lot of learning to love yourself. And it's really hard to do when you're in relationship with someone else, when you're constantly trying to make sure you love them. And that's the people pleasing stuff. And a lot of us have it because of our trauma from childhood. But it's like telling someone, no, I don't want to have dinner with you. I'd rather go to the gym. Or no, when I make my 45-minute drive home from work, my phone's on do not disturb. I might just look at the river the whole way. Or maybe I'm going to listen to a podcast, or maybe I'm going to call a girlfriend. Please don't call me double through my do not disturb to override my do not disturb to talk to me about your day. Like, unless the house is on fire, you can wait 45 minutes for me to get home so that I have time to like decompress after my work day. That's all I do is hold space for people all day long. And so I just need a minute to get right. And it's just recognizing those things in hindsight, going, they're all lessons, right? Now we know in our next person, like what our standards are, what we won't settle for anymore. And that matters too.
Yeah. So when you said you do work with some single women too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious then, once they go to get back out into the world, how do you then communicate this? Because that's something like myself and the other women I know who are also single, they're like, I don't know how I'm going to find somebody who is like up to this standard now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like, how do I communicate that effectively? Because a lot of times you find these people that you think are great, you get to know them, but then all of a sudden, like you realize they haven't done any work on themselves and they need it just as bad as you do. So, how do you, kindly and politely still get those things out of the way? Because I think everyone's fear too is wasting time, and that's probably the same with couples as well. Is like, I don't want to waste my time on this if you haven't done the work, or if you don't want to do the work with me.
Yeah, it is really hard. If you're in relationship, if one person is healing and growing and the other person isn't, that's really hard and that's really frustrating. And you have to decide again, is this the right person for you? Because you can lead by example, right? You can read the book, you can share the things, but you can't make them read the book. And in fact, even trying to make them read the book is not the right way, right? We don't get to control people's life journey here. That's for them. They
Mm-hmm.
have their stories already written. We're just lucky we get to be a part of it, right? Now, the way I approach dating is that it's fun. Like, I walked into Menards this morning and I was like, look at all these guys here. Why don't I shop here more? Like, this would be so fun. And I think like dating can be a lot. And so as I go through seasons of like, okay, I'm ready. And then, oop, I need a little break. It's a lot of time. And time matters for some people, especially if they're looking to have kiddos and whatnot. But I think like you go into this relationship, this friendship, whatever it's going to be, and just ask the questions. Let it be organic. I know a lot of people appreciate date zero, right? They want to talk to you on the phone, and maybe it's an hour, maybe it's 5 hours, but you're just deciding before you even go out for coffee, like, do you want to know more about this person? And then you just realize that like no one's ever going to probably meet all of our standards, right? So we have to just understand like what we want to allow and what's absolutely a non-negotiable. Because someone might be going to therapy and we could be like, gosh, they still have a lot of work to do. But at least they're going to therapy, right? Not a lot of people do that. And so it's just kind of deciding like how much time and effort you want to put in and recognizing your green flags, your red flags, and then just straight up saying that thing like, I don't think we're going to be a good match.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I want to shift gears just a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm curious, what you do. It's not like it's rare, like you're the only person on the planet who does this, right? But I think it can be considered a little like different or taboo, right? Because you dive deep into people's personal lives. You talk about relationships and sex and all the things. And so I'm curious, what has this transition from massage therapy into this modality been like for you? And how did you navigate like explaining it to people in your networks as you were building this piece of your business?
Yeah, it's, a slow process. Coaching in and of itself, like, I don't even love that phrase, but like, it's just what people know. Um, Everyone's really excited to sign up for a massage once a month, right? That's easy. But having to sit on a couch and maybe cry and figure out how to breathe and put your hand on your belly and tell me why what's the thing you're not saying to your husband? Like that takes a lot of courage. And so
Mhm.
trying to meet people where they're at has been really challenging because I love this stuff so much. And I would argue every relationship, again, whether you're single or not, could benefit from this work, from this awareness. Like I'm a forever student. I am constantly learning new things. I never think I know everything, right? Not everyone is in that same boat, but like I think everyone should do this. And if you want to be comfortable with me by first coming in for a massage or even better, Reiki, that's okay too. And so for me, it's just been allowing that space on my calendar of like, although I wish all of my days were booked full of coaching clients right now, that would bring me so much joy. I recognize that so many people aren't there, right? It's not a thing that's been demonstrated. For the most part, our parents just got divorced instead of doing the work. And
Yeah.
so what do we know? Oh, this guy's not right. Let's divorce and move on to the next. People are married 2, 3, 4, 5 times now instead of really staying and putting in the work. And again, I always have the caveat, like, if they're a terrible human, please take care of yourself and leave, right? Like, don't put yourself in harm's way or danger. And recognize, are the things that they're pointing out or saying to you really terrible, or are they reflecting the thing back that you like have work to do with yet, right? Mm-hmm. So it's hard because, like we said, couples aren't just running around saying their marriage sucks, right? Everyone's like hunky-dory, pretending it's fine. So it is a slow process, and I am not a patient person. So that's what I've had to become a little patient around, is like, I can talk to a room full of high achieving women that are like, yeah, I prioritize my marriage. I value that big time. And then they look at their calendars and they go, oh, well, we've got one date night next month. And I'm like, okay, so do you value work more than your partner? Like, it's just an honest answer. There's no judgment, but it's like, how are you actually showing up? And so I'm so grateful for all the connections I've made through Sister Circle and even Stephanie's speaker training, because as I do more podcast interviews, I go, yeah, first of all, most people don't know what relationship coaching is. They've only really heard of like therapy. And a lot of them have tried it and it hasn't been successful. And so they're like, well, this didn't work, and this is the thing you do to save your marriage. And it's like, oh, there's so many other things you can try. So just being patient and recognizing that as I speak more to what these sessions look like and who I help, I think I'm reaching more people. And, we talk about this all the time in our training, the touch points and the sales. And it's like, the more they see me and hear me and they go, oh, she's not intimidating or terrible. I mean, I started out immediately after I graduated sex and relationship coaching being like, the sex is the thing. I did a boudoir shoot. I was like ready, right? Like, let's talk about threesomes and open relationships and BDSM. Yeah. And then I recognized, and again, it could be where I live, but the clients that I have coming in, they're not even having sex with their partner and at all.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, we can't even talk about fun sex. We just need to talk about why you guys don't want to have sex. So I really had to like kind of back up and adjust the way I looked at relationship coaching, because I was like, sex conversations are fun. And if you want to be open, and do you want to don't ask, don't tell, all of these cool options. And then I was like, oh, these people hate each other. Like, they love each other, but the resentment is causing this disconnect that like they're not even sleeping in the same bed. So it's really shifted.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to meet people where they are, right? So now I'm curious, do you have other clients now who are have like worked up to that, where they can now talk in the realm of fun experimental sex type, like things like that?
I mean, it's very slow going, but listen, when my clients come in and they know this is the stuff that lights me up. So they'll literally text me and be like, we had sex last night. And I'm like, okay, and so it's like, again, coming in and just trying to get creative. But a lot of it's even what happens a lot. And again, this is very stereotypical. When I talk about it, I get there's 100 different variations of this thing. But what I see most often is heterosexual couples where the female inherently understands emotional intimacy because we talk with our girlfriends and our mom and whatever, right? The male comes in, the only thing they know is the physical intimacy, because what did dad and our dude friends teach us? Like, sex equals love.
Yeah.
And so it's like getting them to even recognize that they're not speaking the same language. And that if you come in and just grab her butt and want to bang when you haven't helped her with dishes or dinner or kids or anything, like, she's not here for that. And so it's like, let's first get you even talking the same language. Then once you are, we need to figure out the rupture that's caused the resentment, because literally people will come in and they're like, my partner gives me the ick. And like, that's a problem, right? If you don't even want them to touch you, we got a lot of work to do. And it makes sense because, again, stereotypically, men come in, they grab the ass, they squeeze the boob. Guys, please don't do that. No one likes boob honks. Like, knock it off. They go in for the hug or the kiss, and it's always because it's supposed to lead to sex. And so my favorite homework to give them is like, I don't know if, and I think a lot of people know Vanessa and Xander from Pillow Talks, their podcast. That this, I'm borrowing this from them, but their homework is to just make out every single day with no expectation of it leading to sex. It could be a minute, it could be 5, it could lead to sex. Like, put no expectations on that, so that, again, stereotypically, the woman starts to feel like, no, you just love me and want me, and it doesn't always have to like lead to this thing. And so there's so much work to do to get there, that it's like, man, if you guys are even just having sex once a month, like that feels like progress. And so, yeah, I can't wait to get to the juicy bits with people. But again, I was excited for it. And then I recognized, whoa, there's a lot of history to sort of like neutralize before we can even get to that stuff. So it's a little like, selfishly a bummer because I want to talk about the sex stuff, but I'm like, also I recognize like where the work is that we need to be doing.
Right. Yeah. And they'll get there, and then you guys can have those fun conversations.
Yeah. And I think the way I look at it, like couples that are already having great sex and doing all those things probably don't need my help. Right.
That's true.
I would assume if they're that confident and that comfortable having those bedroom conversations, they're also probably really good at having the other conversations too, because the bedroom conversation is like the most vulnerable conversation you're probably ever going to have,
Yeah. So if there was, and we may have covered this already, so if we have, you just say so, because I know we covered a lot. But if there was one piece of advice you could give somebody listening to, if they know they're going through this, what would that one piece of advice be?
Yeah, I think 1, do the work, whatever that looks like. 2, underneath all of it, have you worked on the relationship that you have with yourself? Because that's where it all begins. The better you can do for you, the better you can show up for your partner, your kids, and everybody else. And I know it's so cliche to talk about like serving from the overflow, right? Having a full cup. And I'm like, the problem is the women, the women that I'm serving are like, what's a full cup? My cup's like empty and there's holes in it. So like every time I try to put something in it, it's just coming back out. And so my work really with them is like, okay, let's fill those holes in your cup. Let's figure out how to fill it. Because once we do that, you're going to want to work on the next piece with your partner, right? But it's like, if you're just surviving, so is your relationship.
Yeah, that's powerful advice.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's taken me a lot of like learning to get here, And I'm like, I just want to humbly share what I've learned along the way. I am not perfect. And as I learn these things, I feel like I've always been just a little ahead of my peers, if you will. And so it's like, if that's my journey here to get married, well, have a baby, then get married, then get divorced, buy a house, sell, all the things, like I will fall on that sword for you guys and just tell you what I learned along the way,
You will become the guinea pig.
Yep, truly. And my friend sent me just the best reel the other day, and it was sort of this like alien situation, right? Where it's like they're talking to each other. It's the same guy and he's playing these 2 roles. And the one is like, okay, so your mission is to like go to Earth, and here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you like a pretty face and really cute eyes. You're obviously a light worker, but in order for you to heal, like you have to go through some shit first. You go through the shit, you heal, so that you can like teach this to other people. And so that's essentially my like philosophy of the trauma and the parents we pick is my belief, right? Is like all these things that are seemingly bad, and a lot of them do feel that way, are here to teach me something. And when you can reframe the shit and look for the lesson in it, I feel like it instantly changes the way you look at it, and it's just a little bit lighter. And that's, I think, what I'm here to do is just like lift that heaviness just a little bit.
I love that. And as somebody who started their career as a life and health coach, I love a good reframe. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Where can people get in touch with you if they are listening to this and they're like, I need her help or I want to learn some more from her? Where should they go?
Yeah. So because I have VA people and systems people that have my back these days, I'm like, I'm a creative human that just wings life, right? I think everything now is deep with Cailee Rae. So the website, the Instagram and the Facebook. You can also, when you go to my website, there's like a pop-up to get like a little energy check-in. If you're interested about Reiki or energy, that gets me your email. And then I send out a weekly newsletter, and I do it on Sundays because I've started sharing some like intimacy tips in these emails. And so far they're very PG, but as they get spicier, I'm like, it might be nice that people get these emails on a Sunday in case it's going to work or something like that. So that's been really fun. But yeah, I'd say Instagram is like my jam.
Awesome. Yeah, I love Instagram. So I will make sure that all of that information is in the show notes for you guys, as always. That way you can connect with her super easy. Cailee, thank you so much for being here. This was such a fun conversation. I love when I get to, explore things that are a little different than just straight business talk. So I appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Rebel Rise podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and invite your friends to join us next week. This is your time. Now get out there and rise.